So what I want to look at is what happened in Manchuria. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of Manchuria before, but here. And this is an area, a region in China. Now, it belongs to China, but as you can see, it borders with Korea, and it's also really close to Japan. Japan's probably who I'm more interested in today. Now, we've already looked at the League of Nations has had some successes in the 1920s. However, in the 1930s, it failed to perform its main role as a peacekeeping force. In particular, the League failed to act against the aggressiveness of Japan, Italy, and Germany. Now, just to give you a bit of context, since 1900, Japan's economy and population had been growing. It was a really, really powerful country. Now, by 1900, Japan was a major power. It had a very powerful army and navy, and its army leaders often helped with government policy. And it's also had a really strong industry, so exported lots of goods to the USA and China, in particular silk. And it was also had a growing empire, which included Korea. So it controlled Korea. Now, in 1929, because of the Great Depression in 1929, Japan's economy suffers massively. So its economy was based on exporting silk to rich countries like the USA, but both the USA and China put up tariffs, so they put taxes on Japanese goods. So because of that, it's really expensive, and silk's already a luxury item, so people can't afford to buy silk, particularly when their families are starving. And unemployment in Japan rose by 30%. Japan became more militaristic, so the government looked for different land to be able to invade, thinking it would give them more natural resources. And Manchuria in North China was rich in natural resources. And Japan already had industry and a railway there. It owned the South Manchurian Railway, so it looked like a perfect place for them to be able to invade. Now, this is known as the Manchurian Crisis. On the 18th of September 1931, something known as the Mukden Incident. Now, this is an explosion that happens on the Chinese-owned South Manchurian Railway. Japan blamed China, but the Chinese denied that they were involved. Now, by February 1932, the Japanese government had wanted a friendship with Manchuria, but the army ignored this and invaded. When the people reacted positively, the government decided not to stop the invasion and soon set up something called a puppet government. So it's a leader that Japan can control, and they are put in charge of Manchuria. By March 1932, China appeals to the League, but it's reluctant to act because Japan is one of its leading members, and Manchuria was really far away from Europe, where the League was based. The League, however, did issue moral condemnation. Now, moral condemnation is just basically pointing your finger at them and going, don't do that, it's wrong. And Japan's not bothered about that. So Japan completely ignores the League. There's very little that the League could do without its own army, and its members didn't want to send their own army so far away. Economic sanctions would be useless because Japan's main trade partner, the USA, wasn't part of the League, so Japan could still trade with the League. In April 1932, the League sent British politician Lord Lytton to investigate, and he took nearly a year to write his report, which was published in October 1932. By which time, Japan had invaded Manchuria anyway. Lytton concluded that Japan was in the wrong, but Japan ignored the report, left the League, and went on to take over more of China from 1933 to 1937. So the League has completely failed to deal with the Manchurian crisis. Japan wanted to invade Manchuria anyway, because it was geographically close. Japan was worried that China might kick out Japanese industry. Japan already owned large parts of it, they needed a distraction, and the army was getting stronger. So we know that they were successful in this anyway. The League didn't actually do anything, because people felt that Japan pretty much owned Manchuria, or they owned that Manchurian railway, so they were pretty much entitled to be able to take it over anyway. Japan and China were a long way away from the League, which was based in Geneva, Switzerland. The League was very Eurocentric. It's got 4 main members: Japan, Britain, France, and Italy. So you've got those 4 main members, all of them, apart from Japan, are in Europe. So it's miles away, they didn't need to do anything. China's politics were disorganised and what people saw as being backward. So people thought that actually Japan would take it over and make the country better. Japan was a very powerful member of the League, and they claimed that China had attacked them first. The League was scared to lose Japan, even though Japan ended up leaving the League anyway. Members of the League could not afford to send troops to fight. They just had the Great Depression, 1929. They didn't have any money themselves. They didn't have an army. They didn't have the USA that they could rely on. And they also needed, if they decided to issue sanctions, Japan could still trade with the USA. And the nearest country to them was the USSR, which is Russia, and it wasn't in the League anyway, so they couldn't help.